Hi, Jeff Nillson at the Saturday Evening Post Archives. I wanted to tell you about this issue, which played a pivotal role in the career of J.D. Salinger. You look at the date, it's July 15th, 1944, which is the date the Allied troops entered Paris. Among those troops was Staff Sergeant J.D. Salinger. He had landed with the troops at D-Day, had come up Omaha Beach, and had fought his way across Europe. And he had been in a regiment that had been hit really hard. About 2/3 of his regiment were casualties by the time they reached Paris. So he was glad to reach the capital city. He was even more glad to hear that Ernest Hemingway was in town. Hemingway was a war correspondent who had snuck ahead to liberate the bar at the Hotel Ritz, which is where he was holding court. Salinger went around town and found him and went up to him and said, "Mr. Hemingway, I am your biggest fan. You are such a god to me." And it turned out that Hemingway was a really nice guy. Salinger said he was very generous. He wasn't big snotty at all, as he called it. And he said that, "I'm a writer too." And Hemingway said, "Oh, that's good." And Salinger said, "I just had a story published in the Saturday Evening Post." And Hemingway said, "Oh, I'll have to read that." And Salinger said, "I've got a copy." And he pulls out his copy of the Saturday Evening Post because it's in the middle of the war. He's in Paris, and of course he's carrying around a copy of the Saturday Evening Post. This is a guy who stormed the beach carrying his own portable typewriter. So Hemingway sat down there. I don't know what he was drinking, but he sat down and he read the story, The Last Day of the Last Furlough, which is a good story. And Hemingway thought it so, and he told Salinger, said, "This is a good story and you have a hell of a talent." It was one of the biggest days in Salinger's life, and it convinced him to stop writing for the slick magazines, as he called them, like the Post, and go to the more artsy magazines for stories, like Story Magazine. I should also point out one thing about this story, which is in the July 15th, 1944 issue, and that is there's a character in the story named Holden Caulfield. 7 years before The Catcher in the Rye was published, Holden Caulfield appears in the story. Well, he doesn't actually appear because on page 3, he's reported missing in action in combat in Europe. So apparently there wasn't a catcher in the rye to save Holden Caulfield in this story. Thanks for watching. This is Jeff Nillson at the Saturday Evening Post Archives. You can tweet us at #SEP Archives. We'd love to hear from you.